So after a half decent sleep in Ruby, I sort of woke up, started sorting out my kit. So I had to sort of pack up everything that I'd had drying out, packed up everything that I had charging, got everything ready. I was waiting for breakfast to be cooked, so we got up, I think it was around 6 o'clock they started cooking breakfast. There was a few people staying in here, so there was some pilots, there was some film crews, there was a couple of races, so they cooked up the host cooked up a big breakfast, and we sort of got into that. Breakfast took a little bit longer than I hoped, and I knew I had about 50 miles or 80 kilometres to go until I hit the next village, Galena or Galena. So I really didn't want to burn too much daylight because I knew the higher the sun came up, the further I'd be away from the next checkpoint when the sun went down, and I didn't really want to have to push all through the night. So I sort of got packed up as quick as I could after that, and I didn't really get away till about 9 or 10 o'clock. I sort of took off, and the two other races kind of took off around about the same time. I think they passed me sledding down the hill onto the Yukon River anyway. So we got down onto the river. There wasn't much wind, which was good. But the surface of the snow, or the surface of the trail with the snow, was a little bit sticky, so it was kind of creating a little bit of friction between the pulk, and the going was a little bit slower than what I'd hoped. So I sort of got away, had some lunch on the way, kept moving along, and the temperature was pretty low. I think it was around about -20, maybe a little bit lower. And then as it sort of got to dark, we'd sort of knew, or we'd been told by the host, that there was a shelter cabin around about 18 miles, I think it was, or about 30-something kilometres. So we kind of came across that just as it started to sort of become around dinner time. So we pulled in there, stopped for a short feed within that. There was no heating in there, so I didn't want to stay too long because I just felt myself getting cold, and then sort of got out of there, got back on the trail and got going. And then as it sort of started to get deeper into the night, the temperature started to drop and the wind started to pick up a little bit. So it kind of got to around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And at this stage, I was sort of together with the other two races because we'd kind of decided that we'd stay within a mile or two of each other for the duration of our transit down the Yukon. Because it's just a little bit safer. If the winds pick up, then we can kind of help each other out if we need to. So we kind of got to about midnight. We still had around about 15, 16 miles to go till we got to Galena. So we covered about 31 miles, or about 50 kilometres. So it wasn't a short distance. It was probably close to, or just under the average that I wanted. So then I was trying to decide whether we sort of pushed the last 16 miles or 25 kilometres to Galena, knowing that that could take up to 8 hours. So it could be 8 in the morning before we hit there, pushing all night through the wind. The issue there is that, yeah, it gets you to the checkpoint, but then when you sleep, it takes up most of the day. So the next checkpoint, which was another 50 miles or 80 kilometres, would have to be done overnight, and it kind of throws you out of sync, and then you're pushing through the nights all the time and you're in high wind and it becomes a bit of a struggle. So we decided to bivvy on the river, kept going until we found a bend in the river where we could get a little bit closer to the bank and try and get out of the wind. So I sort of set up there, tried to put as much of a windbreak as I could. I set myself up so the wind wouldn't come down. It was getting really cold, so I knew this was going to be a really uncomfortable night. So eventually kind of sorted it out, or didn't take too long to sort it out. I got in there. I was really tired, so I just wanted to go to sleep. So I just sort of set up as much as I could, used my pulk to break that wind, and then climbed in and went to sleep. So everything I wanted that I needed in the morning came in with me. In hindsight, I should have spent the 5 minutes boiling some of my water and putting it into the water bottle, or putting it into the plastic water bottle I had and bringing that in, because that acts as kind of a heater where it just radiates heat within the sleeping bag, and it would have kept me nice and warm. It's just one of those things where you get tired, you get a little bit lazy, and you decide to take a bit of a shortcut, and you end up paying the price, because as it was, the temperatures really dropped that night and the wind was sort of coming through the small hole I have for the sleeping bags to let fresh air in, and it just made for a really uncomfortable sleep. So it was another long day on the river, but it was topped off with the fact that we sort of enjoyed too much comfort in Ruby while we were there, and then we didn't get as far as we wanted, and then now I was going to pay the price with what was going to be a pretty shit sleep, or the worst sleep I was going to get on the trail. But you know, if you're out in the subarctic environments, you've got to expect that things are going to go south at some point, and you've just got to work out how you can deal with it, work out how you can make the best of it moving on, and then get on with what you need to do so that you can get going, get done what you need to get done.